What if one day you just stopped trying? No more chasing. No more pleasing. No more bending yourself just to be accepted. You don't text first. You don't fill awkward silences with forced laughter. You don't say yes when your soul means no. You simply stop, and then you wait. Not to see who gets angry, not to see who notices, but to see something deeper, who still stays when the performance ends. Because here's the truth. No one prepares you for. Most relationships aren't built on who you are. They're built on what you give. Your availability, your emotional labor, your silence, your smile. And the moment those things stop, so do the people. But what if that isn't a tragedy? What if it's a beginning? In this video, we're going to talk about what really happens when you stop trying to earn love. We'll explore how your relationships shift, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully, when you stop making yourself small, just to be chosen. And most importantly, we'll uncover the quiet freedom that comes when you no longer need to be liked to be worthy. Because the ones who stay, when you finally stop trying, they're the ones who never needed you to be anyone but yourself. Have you ever stopped for a moment and wondered, if I stopped trying, who would still stay? If I stopped texting? First, stopped saying yes, just to keep the peace. Stopped suppressing my needs to make someone else more comfortable. Who would still be here? It sounds like a simple question, but it reveals a truth so deep that it has the power to unravel and rebuild your entire view of connection, belonging, and love. Most of us don't realize just how much of our energy is spent performing. Not in the theatrical sense, but emotionally, psychologically, socially. We bend, we adjust, we overextend. And it doesn't start with malice. It starts with love. Or at least what we think love is supposed to look like. From the moment we are children, we are taught, be agreeable, be likable, be useful. And if you're not, if you set boundaries, if you dare to have needs or worse, express them, you're difficult, you're too much. And so we learn quietly, unconsciously, to shapeshift. We become masters of micro-adjustments. We notice the tone in someone's voice and soften ours to match. We watch someone pull away and instantly try harder. We confuse tension with guilt and try to fix it by offering more of ourselves. And in doing so without knowing it, we train the people around us to love our performance, not our presence. But what happens when you stop? What happens when the performance ends? This is where the philosophy of acceptance versus expectation becomes more than just words. It becomes a lifeline. You see, expectation is the silent contract we write with the world. If I behave a certain way, you will love me. If I give, I will be given to. If I don't disturb, I will be kept. But acceptance. Acceptance is the radical act of saying, I will no longer perform to be chosen. I will be myself and let the truth unfold. And when that truth comes, it can be brutal. Because here's what no one tells you. When you stop trying, most people will leave. Not because you're unlovable, but because they were only ever in love with the version of you that existed to serve them. They were never in love with your truth. They were in love with your silence, your compliance, your usefulness, your predictability. But here's what else they don't tell you. After the departure, after the confusion, after the hollow space they leave behind, something else appears. It's quiet at first, almost too quiet. Like standing in a room where all the noise has been turned off, and all you're left with is yourself. And that's when you start to hear your own voice again. At first it's shaky. You'll doubt it. You'll be tempted to go back to the old habits, to text first again, to say yes, even when you mean no, to laugh at the joke that isn't funny, just to keep the room light. But if you resist that urge long enough, something incredible happens. The right people start to stay. The ones who don't need you to shrink to feel tall. The ones who don't measure your worth by how little you ask for. The ones who value your presence, not your performance. These are the relationships that are born not from expectation, but from deep acceptance. Not from guilt, but from resonance. But to get there, you will have to walk through the valley of letting go. You will have to let go of being understood by everyone. Let go of being liked all the time. Let go of trying to manage how others feel about you. And yes, it will feel like grief. Because it is grief. Grief for the roles you used to play. For the identity you built around being needed. For the illusion that love can be earned through self-erasure. You will feel alone, but you are not alone in this experience. Every soul that chooses authenticity over approval walks this same path. It's not linear. It's not clean. It's filled with echoes of your old self calling you back. But you don't have to go back. You're allowed to grow beyond who you had to be in order to survive. Because survival is not the same as belonging, and so many of us confuse the two. We think that if we are tolerated, we are loved. That if we are invited, we are seen. That if we are useful, we are valued. But usefulness is not intimacy. It is transaction. True connection begins where transaction ends. And that's the paradox. By not trying so hard, you invite the kind of love you've always wanted. Because that love requires no currency, no sacrifice of self, no performance, only presence. So how do you start? How do you unlearn the instinct to please? How do you practice acceptance, not just with others, but with yourself? It begins with the smallest act of honesty, saying no when you mean no. Giving yourself permission to disappoint people, letting silence exist where before you'd fill it with an apology. Watching discomfort rise in others without scrambling to fix it. Trusting that someone else's disapproval is not evidence of your failure. And little by little that honesty becomes your boundary, your filter, the truth that separates who's aligned with your essence and who was only attached to your compliance. When you live this way, something even deeper happens. You start to feel safe in your own presence. You become the person who stays when others leave. You stop abandoning yourself to chase validation. And in that space, your spirit breathes again. This is the quiet liberation. It's not loud. It's not glamorous. You won't get applause for it. But it will change the way you walk through the world. You'll stop chasing closure from people who were never open. You'll stop begging for reassurance from people who benefit from your insecurity. You'll stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. And instead, you'll rest. Not because everything is resolved, but because you no longer need resolution to feel whole. You no longer define your worth by how well you fix things, smooth things, control things. You are worthy even when things are unresolved, even when people are uncomfortable, even when you are not chosen. You are still you, and that is enough. So yes, when you stop trying, people will leave. Let them. That's not your loss. It's your clarity. Because the ones who stay, they're not here for what you do. They're here for who you are. And who you are, unpolished, evolving, raw, real, is finally allowed to take up space. This is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of intimacy. This is not the death of your relationships. It's the birth of your belonging. And it starts the moment you whisper to yourself, I don't have to try so hard anymore. You'll begin to notice things you hadn't before. Like how certain conversations always leave you drained, not because of what's said, but because of what's not allowed to be said. You'll catch yourself editing your truth, mid-sentence, just to keep things light or avoiding your actual opinion, because it's not worth the fight. And as you step back, you'll see clearly the effort you thought was preserving connection was actually protecting someone else's comfort at the cost of your authenticity. That realization stings. It stings because it shows you that your presence was never the foundation your performance was. And that means you weren't truly loved. You were accepted on condition. The condition being, as long as you stay small, agreeable, accommodating, we're good. But you are no longer willing to meet those terms. And when you finally honor that, you'll notice who starts calling less, who only checks in when you reach out first, who subtly punishes your boundaries with distance withdrawal or silence. That too will hurt. Not because you want them to stay, but because you finally see what you were sacrificing just to keep them around. And yet, in the same space where loss lives, freedom begins. You'll find yourself exhaling in conversations where nothing is expected of you. You'll laugh, not to fill space or mask tension, but because you actually feel joy. You'll stop offering explanations for every no. You'll let yourself be misunderstood, not because you don't care, but because your peace is no longer on trial. And in that peace, something sacred grows: self-trust. Self-trust doesn't mean you always know what to do. It means you trust yourself to feel discomfort without abandoning yourself to escape it. It means you can walk away from people who don't see you and still believe you're worth being seen. It means you can stand in your own enoughness even when no one claps for it. Self-trust is the soil of a deeper kind of love. The love that no longer relies on control, fear, or guilt to survive. The love that holds you as you are not for your usefulness, but for your being. You may think this kind of love is rare, that it's reserved for the lucky, but it's not. It's reserved for the brave, those willing to risk solitude for the sake of truth, those willing to grieve the performance so they can meet the self, those willing to wait not to be chosen, but to recognize the ones who choose them without condition. Because when you stop trying, you don't just see who stays, you see why they stay. And that why becomes your new compass. You'll notice the friend who doesn't need you to explain your silence, the one who doesn't flinch when you say, "I need space," the one who doesn't withhold warmth when you're not performing cheerfulness. You'll start to realize that this is what love without expectation feels like. It feels like ease, like stillness, like not having to carry the weight of being enough every moment just to be kept around. And then you'll look back at the past version of you, the one who bent in every direction just to avoid being abandoned, and you'll want to hold them. You'll want to tell them, you didn't have to do all that. You didn't have to be everything to everyone. You were enough all along. This is the part they don't teach in most self-help books. That growth is not just about becoming more, it's about needing less. Less approval, less applause, less certainty from others. Because the more you root into who you are, the less you chase what isn't meant for you. You'll stop trying to be the version of yourself that fits in everywhere. Because you weren't meant to belong everywhere, you were meant to belong somewhere real. And sometimes the cost of reaching that place is letting everything else fall away. This is the cleansing that no one warns you about. The sacred loneliness, the spiritual shedding, the quiet death of your people-pleasing identity. But let it die. Let the roles, the masks, the borrowed expectations fall away. Let the silence speak. Let the space expand. Let the emptiness stay long enough to become fertile. Because from that emptiness, something honest will grow. You'll find a rhythm that doesn't involve proving anything. You'll stop hustling for emotional crumbs. You'll realize that relationships built on guilt and obligation are not relationships, they are silent prisons. And your liberation is not just a gift to you. It's a boundary for others. By no longer playing the role, you allow others to see what they've been taking for granted. And if they leave, let them. Their departure is not proof that you're unworthy. It's proof that the dynamic needed to end. You are not unlovable because they could not love you without conditions. You are simply no longer willing to be loved on terms that cost you yourself. And in time, the ones who see you clearly, the ones who recognize you without you needing to shrink, smile, or explain, they will arrive. Quietly, naturally. And you will know them not by how loud they are, but by how little you need to become anyone else when you are with them. This is the miracle of stopping, of releasing, of allowing truth to do the sorting. It's not easy. It takes courage and patience, and moments where you'll want to go back, not because it was good, but because it was familiar. But every time you resist that temptation, you build a new kind of muscle, the muscle of groundedness, of rooted self-worth. You become less swayed by moods, less affected by distance, less anxious in the face of silence. Because you know now, your worth does not fluctuate based on who responds. Your peace is no longer dependent on who approves. Your joy is no longer a transaction. You stop performing. And that's when the real performance begins, the life you were meant to live. Unfiltered, unapologetic, aligned. No longer asking, what do I need to do to be loved? Now asking, what does love look like when I don't have to do anything at all? You start living the question every day, and slowly answers arrive in the form of friendships that nourish, not deplete, conversations that energize, not perform, moments of solitude that feel sacred, not sad. And when someone walks into your life now, they meet the real you, the unmasked you, the you who doesn't chase, doesn't convince, doesn't overgive. And if they stay, you'll know they're not here for your compliance. They're here for your core. That's not just connection. That's home. And it all begins not with effort, but with the courage to stop trying. And what you'll realize is this: the ones who truly see you won't require you to constantly explain yourself. They won't confuse your silence with rejection. They won't need you to earn their attention with endless emotional labor. They will just be there, steady. Not always loud, not always dramatic, but present. With you. Not because of what you give them, not because of what you fix for them, but because they resonate with who you are when you're not trying. That kind of presence can feel unfamiliar at first. It might even scare you, because you've built an entire emotional reality around earning love, around working for connection, around managing other people's emotions just so they'll stay. But now you're starting to learn something radical. Real love doesn't need a manager. It just is. You won't need to keep showing up as the perfect friend, the understanding partner, the dependable sibling, just to keep a seat at someone's table. Because your presence alone is no longer a bargain, it's a blessing. And when people stop expecting you to contort yourself just to be included, that's when you finally get to feel what it's like to be chosen without conditions. And slowly something inside you heals. You begin to trust stillness. You begin to savor conversations that don't require a script. You let awkward moments breathe without rushing to fill them. You notice how often you used to monitor your tone, your face, your reactions, just to keep things safe. And now you stop. You just let yourself be. No filter, no fear. This freedom is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It seeps in, one moment at a time. And then one day, you're sitting with someone, and you realize you're not exhausted. You didn't prepare. You didn't edit yourself 5 times before you spoke. You're just here, with them, fully, honestly. And they are too. That's when you understand you've crossed over. You've exited the economy of approval and stepped into the sanctuary of truth. You've left behind the game of earn to be loved and entered the garden of be and be seen. But this shift won't be celebrated by everyone. Not everyone benefits from your healing. Some people were only comfortable around you because you didn't take up space, because you didn't challenge them, because you played the role that made them feel more comfortable in their dysfunction. The moment you stop playing that role, they leave. Or worse, they try to pull you back. They may say you've changed. You've become cold, distant, selfish. But none of that is true. What's true is this: you've stopped betraying yourself. And to those who mistook your self-abandonment for kindness, your boundaries will feel like cruelty. But that's not your responsibility to correct. You are not responsible for someone else's comfort at the cost of your authenticity. Because the moment you start shrinking to keep others close, you abandon yourself. And self-abandonment always comes with a cost that compounds over time. You lose your spark, your sense of direction, your clarity. You say yes when everything in your body screams no. You smile when your spirit aches. You listen while your own thoughts drown. And slowly the person you truly are, the one beneath all the effort, disappears. Until one day you look in the mirror and wonder, when did I start fading? But you don't have to live like that anymore. You can choose to return to yourself. You can start small. You can ask, what do I need right now? And actually listen. You can say no without a list of justifications. You can let someone be disappointed in you and not rush to fix it. You can exist in your full, unapologetic truth and let others recalibrate themselves around it. And if they leave, let them, because the right ones will not only stay, they will adjust with you. They will evolve. They will see that your growth is not a threat, but a revelation, a deeper invitation into your soul. And they will rise to meet it. That's how you know you're safe. Not because people don't leave, but because those who stay are the ones who never asked you to leave yourself in order to keep them. It takes immense strength to reach this place, to walk away from conditional love, to sit in the silence that follows, to resist the urge to over-explain, to stop performing your worth. But with each breath of truth, with each moment, you choose integrity over acceptance. You become more alive. And when you are fully alive, something shifts in your entire being. Your energy changes. You no longer chase, but attract. Not through force, but through resonance. Not through effort, but through essence. You walk into rooms differently. You speak from a place of grounded knowing. You no longer tolerate relationships that require your disappearance to function. You no longer need to fix broken dynamics. You simply stop participating in them. And your peace becomes magnetic. Because peace is powerful. When you no longer need people to behave a certain way, to feel okay, you become free. Free to connect without control. Free to love without losing yourself. Free to let people be who they are and decide if that aligns with where you're going. You no longer measure love by proximity or frequency. You measure it by depth, by reciprocity, by how safe you feel being honest. And when that becomes your standard, your entire world reorganizes itself. You stop grasping. You stop performing. You stop negotiating your worth in rooms that never knew how to see you. And you begin to notice the people who stay now. They know you. Not the version you polished, not the mask you wore to survive, but the real you. Messy, growing, unfiltered, alive. And when you meet someone like that, Someone who doesn't need you to shrink. Hold on to them. Not tightly, not fearfully, but gently, with gratitude, because they are not here to consume you. They are here to witness you. And that, my friend, is the rarest kind of love. It's the kind that doesn't fade when you stop giving. It doesn't flinch when you set boundaries. It doesn't collapse under your complexity. It breathes with you. It evolves with you. It honors you. And you begin to love yourself that way too. You stop negotiating your truth to keep others happy. You stop asking for permission to take up space. You stop apologizing for your needs, your edges, your growth. And you start standing tall in the most sacred knowing of all. You are allowed to exist exactly as you are. Not because you earned it, not because you proved it, but because you are. That's the truth you've been running from, and the truth you've been longing for. And it only revealed itself the moment you stopped trying. And so it comes to this, the quietest, clearest, most profound turning point in your life, the moment you realize that you are no longer willing to abandon yourself, not even for love, especially not for love. Because any love that requires the death of your authenticity isn't love. It's dependency dressed up in longing. It's manipulation cloaked in obligation. It's a transaction disguised as affection. And you've outgrown all of that. You've tasted what it feels like to rest in your own truth, to be held by silence and not crumble, to say, I'm not available for that anymore, and mean it. You've come home to yourself, not all at once, but through every hard-earned no, every sacred pause, every courageous boundary that said, I matter too. And now, as you stand on the other side of trying, of proving, of pleasing, you see the world differently. You see that some people only loved you when you were convenient, when you didn't need much, when your light didn't cast shadows on their unexamined parts. You see that your over-functioning made their comfort possible, that your emotional labor held together what was never reciprocal to begin with. You see it clearly, painfully, honestly, and you bless it for what it taught you. But you don't return to it, because now your loyalty is no longer to your past, it's to your becoming. You choose peace over performance, truth over harmony, integrity over popularity, depth over company, and solitude over noise. Because now you understand, your inner stillness is not emptiness, it's alignment. It's the place where real love finds you, not the desperate kind, not the kind that rushes in to fill a void, but the steady, sacred, soul-expanding kind of love. The kind that doesn't ask you to be less. The kind that says, you don't have to earn me. I see you and I stay. That's the gift of stopping. You no longer chase love. You become love. You no longer beg for belonging. You embody it. You no longer try to prove your worth. You protect it. And slowly, the people around you begin to shift. Some disappear, yes, but others emerge. Or maybe they were always there, but you couldn't see them through the fog of your own exhaustion. Now, they become visible. The friends who hold your silence like a song. The partners who celebrate your boundaries like sacred lines of poetry. The family who learns to relate to you not through guilt, but through growth. You build a world rooted in realness. And it's not perfect. It's not always soft, but it's true. It's real. And most importantly, it's yours. Because now finally, you live not from fear of losing others, but from the joy of finding yourself. And so you begin again. With clarity, with intention, with a heart that has been broken open and rewoven with gold. You begin to ask different questions. Not how do I get them to stay, but who do I become when I stay with myself? Not Why didn't they choose me? But why did I choose people who didn't see me? Not how do I fix what's broken, but what if I build what's never been? And this new path, it's unfamiliar, yes, but it's sacred, because every step you take is a reclamation of your time, of your truth, of your tenderness, of your wholeness. And one day, without realizing it, you wake up and feel it fully. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer convincing. You are no longer shrinking. You are no longer afraid of who leaves when you stop trying, because you know without effort, without performance, without pretense that who you are is finally enough. No longer asking to be seen, now choosing to be visible. No longer bending to be loved, now rising to be met. No longer giving in fear, now offering in truth. This is the new story, not about who stayed, but about who you became when you stopped trying to be kept. Because in the end, the ones who matter don't need your performance, they need your presence. And the most important one who stays is you.